Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
He just wasn't going to stop. Police led on a wild off-road chase, and just wait until you see how it all ended.
Floyd Galloway rejects a plea deal in an attack on a jogger.
We're ready for trial. We'll be ready for trial.
What does it mean in the disappearance of Danielle Stieslicki?
A harrowing morning for Detroit police officers here on Detroit's southwest side. What would have been a barricaded gunman situation turned into nothing, but not before a pretty nasty fight and a whole lot of other things. We'll explain.
All that coming up in just a minute. We're going to start, though, with the weather and some bitter cold. Metro Detroit locked in a deep freeze tonight. It is going to be a while before temperatures bounce back. Topping our news this Friday at 5. The cold, as you said last night, it's going to get your attention. It did more than that.
You're right.
Popped you right in the mouth.
Right in the mouth is right. You see all those people bundled up in that video. Not fun at all, considering it's early November. Let's get right over to Ben. It's going to stay this way for a while, Ben.
Well, Kim, this is definitely the worst of it, but it is going to be a very slow improvement as we head into next week. And looking at that video, just you almost assume that's from Chicago or New York or somewhere else, but that was here. We did tie a record this morning, and we've only recovered to 27, so those numbers really have only moved about 8 degrees off of that low. You can see the teens hanging out up here in parts of the northern area of the state. They will be back tonight. In fact, we could be setting another record, but compared to yesterday, of course, those temperatures were in the midst of falling, but you can see where the big changes happen here across the eastern state of Michigan, eastern part of Michigan, and back into the northeast. As we get through the rest of tonight, we're looking at another record in jeopardy. Believe it or not, that record is 19 again. Some improvement coming for the weekend, but hang on, the 50s are back in the forecast next week, and not just for one day. We'll check that out for you coming up in a few minutes, guys.
All right, Ben. Our other top story today, the person of interest in the disappearance of Danielle Stieslicki says no deal to a Wayne County judge.
Floyd Galloway Jr. had been offered a plea deal in the attack and sexual assault of a jogger in Hines Park. Let's get to Sean Lay. He was in court for today's hearing, and Sean, he's now headed to trial.
That's correct. And after court, Kimberly, we had questions for Galloway's attorney. I asked him, was it Galloway's decision alone to reject this plea deal? He says yes. And in his words, he says they're going to let the chips fall where they may at trial. Was it a last-second decision to reject a plea deal? Floyd Galloway charged in a brutal attack on a jogger in Hines Park in court today, and it was deadline day to accept or reject the Wayne County prosecutor's deal. Agree to 15 to 35 years in prison, register as a lifetime sex offender, and the charge of assault with intent to murder would be dropped. Galloway said no.
Saying you are rejecting the offer, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The attack last fall on the jogger was brutal. Galloway is accused of beating and choking her in an attempt to sexually assault her. That victim testifying in an earlier hearing.
He started to drag me towards the direction of the woods.
Galloway's attorney says they are headed to trial and will argue Galloway wasn't there at the time of the attack.
It's a question of was he there or not.
Galloway remains the only person of interest in the disappearance of Danielle Stieslicki. Last December, Danielle went missing. Galloway worked security at her Southfield building. Last summer, police searched Hines Park for her body, but found nothing. Galloway's Berkeley house was searched, but he has not been charged.
I haven't had a lot of conversation with the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office or Farmington Hills Police, so you'll have to ask them.
So Galloway rejects this plea deal. Keep in mind, it was only a few weeks ago a judge lowered his bond. If he does make that bond, Kimberly, he'll be on house arrest. His trial starts at the end of this month. Back to you.
Yeah, and speaking of the trial, Sean, do we know how long it's expected to last?
Prosecutors talked about that in open court today. 3 weeks at least, they say, with about 45 witnesses.
Okay. Sean, we appreciate it. We know you'll keep us posted. Devin?
We continue to learn more about a tense standoff with police in southwest Detroit after a man is shot by one of his neighbors. Happened at a home on Cahalan Street, right in the area of Verner and Springwells. As Nick Monticelli reports, it turns out the alleged shooter had already left her home before police arrived.
I didn't know what to think. I was scared to leave my place because I didn't know if they were going to come after me or not.
Teresa Lehman's daughter is the one in police custody for shooting a man this morning. It all started around 4 a.m. in the 7,000 block of Cahalan. This woman, Amy, and her boyfriend got into a fight. She went across the street to her neighbor for help. It's unclear exactly how, but sometime during this fight, her boyfriend hit his head and was bleeding. Police ended up taking him to the hospital, but a short time later, he came back. Police say he was angry with the neighbor for getting involved. He was allegedly screaming and throwing bricks through her front window.
She kept telling me that the guy was trying to kill her and she was scared for her life.
Police say that's when the neighbor came outside and shot the man, not once, but twice. One could argue the shooting was self-defense. Police, though, say she advanced for the second shot.
I guess she determined whatever she determined and decided she was going to shoot him. So she shot him from the front porch and then she advanced. So it gets hinky after that.
Police were called again and tried talking to the woman, but she would not answer the door and the curtains were moving. So they closed the street and waited for backup, thinking they were dealing with a barricaded gunman. It turns out she had already left, and police and her mother convinced her to come back.
We just told her to come home, everything would be all right. They just want to question you.
She did come back, and as you can see, she is now in police custody. The man shot in the leg twice was taken to the hospital. He is expected to recover, and now the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office will have to determine the fate of the woman who lives inside of that home. Detroit Southwest Side, Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
And by the way, those moving curtains in her house, the reason police thought she was in there actually turned out to be her dogs. As controversy over sexual misconduct swirls around him, the comedian Louis C.K. makes a stunning admission.
In a long statement issued today, he says the accusations against him are all true. Sandra Ali is here with us, and Sandra, just to come out and admit this is pretty bold.
It's very bold, Kimberly and Devin. In fact, just over 24 hours ago, 5 women accused the Emmy Award-winning comedian of sexual misconduct. Today, Louis C.K., he confessed and said the allegations are indeed true.
Louis C.K. is one of the world's highest paid comedians, earning about $52 million over the last year. On Friday, he broke his silence about a New York Times report over allegations of sexual misconduct, saying the women's stories are, quote, all true. In a lengthy statement, the 50-year-old confessing to exposing and fondling himself in front of women in several incidents, saying, quote, I have been remorseful of my actions and I've tried to learn from them and run from them, end quote. The statement comes after movie distributor The Orchard announced it would not release his latest movie, I Love You, Daddy.
Everybody's a pervert. I'm a pervert. We're all perverts. Who cares?
Netflix also said it was canceling a planned stand-up special. His statement added, quote, there is nothing about this that I forgive myself for, and I have to reconcile it with who I am, which is nothing compared to the task I left them with, end quote. It ends with the comedian stating he will now step back and take a long time to listen.
And you can read the entire 438-word statement. It's on our website, clickondetroit.com.
It's pretty thorough. It's lengthy.
It really is.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of folks buzzing about how he just kind of came out
and said it. Fell right on the sword.
This is what happened. And it makes you wonder, too, if there are other women who may come forward.
That may be true, too. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sandra.
A 43-year-old man was shot early this morning while police say he was spying on a woman as she was having an affair. Police say he was spying on a 28-year-old woman on Winthrop Street around 2 o'clock in the morning on Detroit's west side. And police say when the man tapped on the window, the woman opened it and fired shots at him. The man was shot in the arm, drove himself 2 miles before calling the police. The woman has not yet been confirmed to be the girlfriend of the victim.
A large home burns early this morning in Farmington Hills. You're looking down on the scene from Sky 4 as firefighters battled the blaze. It happened on Green Meadow near 12 Mile and Middle Belt. An investigation is still underway. No one was home at the time. Early this morning, some residents of Belleville woke up to a power outage.
Police received several calls about a transformer that blew up in the downtown area near the police station, and power was lost around 3:30 this morning, affecting about almost 8,000 people in the area. DTE crews worked to get power back online. According to their outage map, almost 100% of that power has been restored.
Not a good morning for it being so cold.
Exactly, really chilly, right?
Oh my goodness.
It's a project that is set to change the city of Detroit in a very big way.
Yeah, new here at 5. We'll show you why hundreds of people lined up just to get a chance to hear about it. Priya?
For the first time, Olympic champion Ali Reisman is accusing a disgraced Michigan doctor of abuse. Hear what USA Gymnastics has to say tonight.
But first, he went over the river and through the woods. He really did, to try and get away. Quite possibly one of the more bizarre chases we've ever seen, and we'll have it next.
I feel like
New at 6.
The party's over for all fraternities at U of M, banned from all activities. But tonight, students are divided over whether the punishment is fair. We'll have a live report coming up, New at 6.
Also, justice for Raheel Siddiqui, the Marine recruit from Taylor who died after mistreatment by a drill instructor. New at 6, we'll hear from a key figure in putting that drill instructor behind bars.
We'll have those stories coming up in just a moment, but we do have some breaking news that we need to pass along to you this evening. It's happening right now on Detroit's west side. You're looking at live pictures as a man's body has just been found in a shopping cart. This is along the I-94 service drive at St. Lawrence. You see what looks like two investigators there and the blue lights flashing. We're told the investigation is still underway to determine how this man died. We'll have more as we get it.
A wild police chase unfolds in Oklahoma. It was weaving through highways, neighborhoods, and fields. It all started as officers spotted a stolen pickup truck. And from there, the driver led officers on a chase that lasted hours. At one point, a civilian moved in to try to block the truck into a dead end, even opened fire. The driver got away and stopped in a field. Eventually, the driver backed up the truck into, as you can see there, a small pond where it got stuck. He tried then making a run for it before an officer used a taser to take him down. Police are still working to identify him.
Oh, she was a star of the Summer Olympics in Rio. We're talking about Aly Raisman. She snagged the gold along with the Fierce Five, but today she did something much harder. In an interview with 60 Minutes, she admitted she was a victim of Dr. Larry Nassar. Let's bring in Priya Mann live. Priya, this had to be so very difficult for her.
Oh, she was extremely brave. Now, she'd hinted in previous interviews about the alleged widespread abuse that had gone on for so long and affected so many. But this was her first time saying that as a teenager, she too was a victim. Three-time gold medalist and Fierce Five member Aly Raisman says she too was abused by Dr. Larry Nassar. She made the bombshell allegations during a 60 Minutes interview. The 23-year-old star gymnast said, "Why are we looking at why didn't the girls speak up? Why not look at what about the culture? What did USA Gymnastics do and Larry Nassar do to manipulate these girls so much that they're so afraid to speak up?" She went further, saying, "I am angry. I'm really upset because I care a lot, you know, when I see these young girls that come up to me and they ask for pictures or autographs, whatever it is. I can't. Every time I look at them, every time I see them smiling, I just think I just want to create change so that they never, ever have to go through this." Raisman said she was just 15 years old when she was first treated by Nassar. The gymnast competed in the 2012 and 2016 Olympic Games, winning 6 medals overall. She now joins dozens of other women who have accused the disgraced former MSU and USA Gymnastics team doctor of abuse. In August, during an interview with The Guardian, Raisman said, "Even if he didn't do it to you, it's still the trauma and the anxiety of wondering what could have happened. I think that needs to be addressed." And we did reach out to USA Gymnastics. They released a lengthy statement. I'll read you a portion of it if we can get that up on your screen. It reads in part, Aly's passion and concern for athlete safety is shared by USA Gymnastics. The Safe Sport policy strengthens policies that include mandatory reporting, defines 6 types of misconduct, sets standards to prohibit grooming behavior and prevent inappropriate interaction, and establishes greater accountability. Reporting live, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
So Priya, what's the latest on Dr. Larry Nassar? I feel like we haven't really talked about him lately. We know that he's pleaded guilty to some charges, but there's still a whole lot of other state charges.
Yeah, that's right. 33 criminal sexual conduct charges. He's expected to plead not guilty over the summer in July. He did plead guilty to a number of federal charges, and he's expected to be sentenced later this month. Okay. Send it back to you.
We will, of course, continue to follow it. All right, Priya, thanks.
Perspective is always helpful. Could always be worse. Check out this video. This is Chicago, taken downtown earlier today. Snow coming down there at a pretty fast clip. Back here, record-setting cold, and up north, as we saw yesterday, some snow.
Yeah.
But around here, I guess we'll just settle for the fact that it is really chilly.
It is chilly, but we got to look on the bright side because it could be worse. We did have some sunshine today.
Yeah, and sometimes that heals all wounds.
Right.
Or at least most of them.
It looks a lot warmer than it is.
It is.
It kind of tricks you, too.
Yeah, it does. But we stayed below freezing in most locations. In fact, this is where we started out the morning. City of Detroit got to 20. That was the big winner. Everybody else in the teens, including Romulus at the airport. We tied that record of 19 set back about a century ago. And you can see a lot of teens in our south zone too. Monroe, closer to the water, did bottom out at 20 degrees. Mid-teens in our west zone. Whitmore Lake, Howell, Ann Arbor, all in the mid-teens. And once you get into our north zone, some warmer temperatures by a degree or two. 19 there in Lapeer, 18 in Port Huron, and Yale was at 16 this morning. So we got into the 20s. And now we're starting to fall again. But look at this on 4 Live radar. One of these lake effect bands as the winds are starting to pivot off the lake, bringing a couple flakes here across parts of St. Clair County and beyond. In fact, you can see those clouds in the distance there as we look back over Belle Isle, where some of those flakes may be reaching as far south as Macomb County and possibly even the shoreline by the Grosse Pointes. So keep that in mind tonight. Otherwise, we'll call it partly cloudy, at least at Metro. 27 is the temperature. Wind chill right now at 18 degrees. And despite this cold, look at this storm pin that we got in. This is from Lake Oakland. I guess if you've got the boat out and the water's not frozen, you might as well get out there on the lake. And that's what somebody's doing out there today. Deborah shot this and sent it to us on storm pins. Appreciate that. High pressure settles in tonight, so it's going to put an end to those lake effect flakes on the east side. We'll start the weekend dry on Saturday. By the time we get into the evening, as that low skirts to the north of us, there's a chance our north zone could get a couple flakes, but it looks like the better chance of precipitation is going to be on Sunday morning, and that's going to be down near the state line. This is going to be a little bit of a wintry mix as we get started closer to sunrise, but it's going to quickly evaporate and change to rain, whatever is left. So by lunchtime and beyond, we're looking at dry conditions to finish out our weekend. All right, so here are the lows tonight, and this is our 4-zone forecast in the Metro zone. Remember, the record again tonight is 19. Awfully close to it. We'll call it 20 there at Romulus and in the city. Otherwise, we're looking at a lot of upper teens across the Metro zone. South zone upper teens too, and just like last night, we should be around 20 here at the lake. Mid-teens here in our west zone, or really upper teens, I should say, from Howell back to Novi and Canton. And we will see some mid-teens north of M59, 16 up there in Marlette and Sandusky, ranging to 18 closer to the south end of the zone. So high temperatures tomorrow, a little bit better than what we did today. The wind not terrible, 5 to 10 miles an hour. 40 degrees, still woefully below average. In fact, most of this forecast is until we get into the middle of next week. 3 days in the 50s.
Yeah, that'll
be
great.
We'll take that.
Yep.
But notice those morning lows are going to be above freezing, so we'll spend the entire day above 30.
That's good.
There's a little bit of a chill in between.
We get there. All right, Ben.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Well, just weeks after getting out of jail, it seems O.J. Simpson has himself in a heap of trouble. What he did that may just put his parole in jeopardy.
But first, stories from across Michigan, including a devastating update to a story we're following out of Kalamazoo. And that's next. Across Michigan, the night stories from Holland and Wexford County.
But we want to start in Kalamazoo. That's where the child of the parents who were killed in a murder-suicide has also died. That shooting took place yesterday morning outside a home and killed Jelena Gibson and Nicholas Mitchell. The 4-year-old little boy was the only survivor, but suffered a gunshot wound to the head. And last night, that little boy, Nicholas Mitchell Jr., died at the hospital.
Moving over to Wexford County, where a 9-year-old boy was airlifted to the hospital after a buggy crash. This morning, a semi-tractor trailer swerved and hit the horse, pulling the buggy, causing it to flip, and the boy ended up pinned beneath the buggy. The extent of his injuries have not yet been released. The 2 other passengers were not injured. Unfortunately, the horse had to be put down for its injuries. The U.S. Senate has confirmed Holland, Michigan native Pete Hoekstra as the new U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands.
Yeah, former Republican congressman was confirmed yesterday. He was actually born in the Netherlands, the real Netherlands, moved to the U.S. when he was 3 and is currently living in Holland, Michigan. Hoekstra was first elected to Congress in 1992. He served 18 years before leaving in early 2011. He will now leave his Holland, Michigan home for a home in the other Holland.
The other Holland, yeah.
The other Holland.
Pretty cool.
On this day 42 years ago, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior.
November 10th, 1975, the ship, named after the president and CEO of its owner, sank during a rough storm on the lake and left no survivors. Largest and fastest Great Lakes ship at the time, setting a number of records for largest season hauls. The last contact with the Fitz took place at 7:10 p.m. When, as you remember the song, a main hatchway caved in. Its wreckage wasn't discovered until a half year later, on May 20th, 1976.
New at 5:30.
Fire destroyed this building back in 2016, but after a year and a half, the South Lyon Hotel is back. Business is booming. We'll take you inside.
Major allegations making their way into the Alabama Senate race and sending shockwaves across Washington.
Well, it's time to build that new skyscraper on the old Hudson site.
It means so much for Detroiters to work on a project of this magnitude.
And the city requires a lot of Detroiters to get in on it. And here they are.
Next week. It's a chance to get in on one of the biggest construction projects in the city of Detroit's history, and it's only open to Detroit-based contractors. It tops our news tonight at 5:30. You know, Dan Gilbert's plan for the Hudson site will really change the city skyline.
It's also going to take an army of workers to build it, and that's what a special event today was all about. Rod Maloney shows us why they're looking for Detroit contractors, and lots of them.
Detroit's skyline is about to change in a dramatic way with a $1 billion addition, a new building on the old Hudson site. We've seen all the plans, but now somebody has to build it, and a lot of Detroiters want in. The city of Detroit requires 30% Detroiter participation in big new construction projects. Detroit-based is best, but you can also have a regional office with one in the city. The Embroidered Jackets told us dozens of interested contractors were here to do business. Detroit-based engineer Carolyn Buckles owns Onyx Enterprises, employs 8 people, worked on the M1 rail and other government-backed projects, and now brings high hopes.
This is transformative for many of our firms because we can hire more employees for the design and for the construction side, for the construction trade.
Detroit veteran and heating and cooling contractor Jim Gaunt knows there's tough competition out there and says it will take all his skill and perseverance, but he's game.
For once in my lifetime, I feel yes, to be part of the project, to get a piece of the project. Yes, I don't really feel like it's a waste of my time.
Mike Steele's MAS Building Company made good money doing projects for GM and believes there's more at stake here than just a financial windfall for him and his company.
I'm born and raised here. I've not seen projects of this scale before. And having the opportunity to get involved with something like that is just immeasurable, aside from the actual benefits of the job itself.
Being small is not an advantage here, and so what is likely to happen, and most of the business people we spoke with today said that they're looking for partners who need a Detroit-based contractor to work with so that they can all get in on this. Back to you.
Well, Rod, what about hiring Detroit construction workers? The city requires that as well.
Yes, they do, and there are going to be a number of job fairs. Of course, they have to pick the contractors first in order to be able to get that done. And of course, they're counting on they had like 100 apprentices working on the LCA, on Little Caesars Arena. The expectation is a lot of them will actually be here, and they'll probably be hiring more apprentices as well.
Massive project. All right, Rod.
Well, before we get to Ben, you have got to see this. You're looking at live pictures right here of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington. Look at that gorgeous sunset. Absolutely stunning.
It's hard to get that lighting just perfect, and it looks like Mother Nature did just that. You have the orange in the back and the Capitol's lit up. And
just beautiful. Almost looks like a postcard.
It does, and this is that time of year where we're getting the sunset right during the show, so we'll probably see a lot more of those.
It's also that time of year where the weather is just dipping. It got cold quick.
It did, and we have to talk about it, but also want to show you 4Live radar because it is not just sunshine and cold out there. There's a couple flakes. We're watching the east side. This is a band of lake effect. We'll call it flurries, probably a snow shower mixed in somewhere in there, but this is generally coming down 94. It looks like it's ending here at the north end of Lake like St. Clair, but there's also some of this that's connecting back to the south. In fact, some of that is just now starting to pass Grosse Pointe down through Belle Isle. So we may see a couple of little flakes here in the city, but it's not going to amount to much. Just sort of a reminder that the temperatures are below freezing out there. We'll continue to be in the 20s tonight, and we could be setting another record. The record's 19. We're calling for 20, so it's in the ballpark. Wind chills will be a little bit better than what we woke up to this morning with lighter winds, and we'll talk about any improvement over the weekend coming up in a few minutes. Sandra?
All right, Ben, I'll take it now to the scandal that has rocked one of the nation's most closely watched political races, Senate race in Alabama. Republican Roy Moore is accused of inappropriately touching a teenage girl years ago when Moore was in his 30s. The allegations are having a ripple effect that is being felt all the way through to Washington. Blaine Alexander on Capitol Hill, where Republicans have not wasted any time in responding. Blaine.
Well, Devin, coincidentally, these allegations were made public on the same day that the Senate voted unanimously for mandatory sexual harassment training. Now, even some who endorsed Moore are trying to keep their distance. Today, allegations against Republican Senate candidate from Alabama, Roy Moore, rocking Capitol Hill. The Washington Post reporting Moore initiated sexual contact with a 14-year-old girl years ago when he was 32. 3 other women say he also pursued them around the same time when they were in their teens. Moore, who has built a political career on Christian values, calling the allegations completely false, adding this garbage is the very definition of fake news and intentional defamation. NBC News has not independently confirmed the account, and the accuser never filed a police report or a civil suit. Today, top Republicans quickly backing away from the candidate.
Unless he can prove his innocence, the burden is now on him within the next day or so. I believe he has to step down.
More than a dozen GOP senators joining that call. The White House adding allegations alone should not ruin a person's life.
However, the president also believes that if these allegations are true, Judge Moore will do the right thing and step aside.
But the decision ultimately comes down to the people of Alabama.
I don't think it's true. People that are against him are really against him. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they'll stop at anything to try to keep him out.
And conservative Breitbart News published a story ahead of the Post in which Moore slammed the allegations as a smear campaign. Now, Moore is refusing to drop out of the race, and his name is already on the ballot. Alabama officials say that even if he does choose to step aside, it's too late to remove his name. In Washington, Blaine Alexander, Local 4.
All right, Blaine. Now, Moore released a statement a short time ago saying in part he has never provided alcohol to minors, nor has he engaged in any sexual misconduct. President Trump's Asian tour, meanwhile, has brought him to Vietnam today. At the same time, Russian leader Vladimir Putin is there to attend an APEC summit.
In fact, this will mark the first time in months that the president and Putin are in the exact same location. Mr. Trump hinted at having a formal meeting with his Russian counterpart during their time in Vietnam. However, his press secretary says no formal meeting is on the books because of scheduling conflicts. A soap factory in Ohio caught fire for the second time in just a year. Take a look at this video here. This is the old Hewitt soap factory, completely engulfed in flames. This happened overnight in Dayton, Ohio. The factory was in the final stages of demolition after a different building right there on that same campus was destroyed by fire in December of last year. Investigators have not yet figured out exactly what caused this fire. A school has been closed in Harlem where a preschooler died after he was given a grilled cheese sandwich.
This happened at the 7th Avenue Center for Family Services, where 3-year-old Elijah Silvera attended preschool. Despite knowing and documenting that he had a severe allergy to dairy, he somehow received the sandwich.
I don't know if it can be avoided because we don't really know what happened. The investigation will help us better understand whether or not everything that needs to be in place was in place and what happened.
All New York schools are required by law to have a safety plan should a student go into anaphylactic shock. The Department of Health investigating this incident. It's closed the school for failing to follow its written safety plan and also failing to supervise Elijah.
O.J. Simpson has found himself back in the news after being banned from a Vegas hotel. The Cosmopolitan Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas banned him from the property. Simpson's attorney says he's not sure why Simpson was banned. Hotel staffers say it was because Simpson was intoxicated and unruly at the bar there. Security reportedly had to show up and remove Simpson from the hotel. It's been on the air now for more than 40 years, but Saturday Night Live will mark a first for the show this week.
That is right. Tiffany Haddish will become the first black female comedian to host the show. She actually auditioned to be a cast member for SNL, didn't make the cut. Recently appeared in the box office hit Girls Trip and NBC's The Carmichael Show. She will be accompanied by musical guest Taylor Swift, and you'll see it here tomorrow night. An elementary school in Roseville has won a visit from Jump with Jill.
Roseville is just one of the 35 Michigan elementary schools that have won a spot on the Milk Means More Jump with Jill tour. It's the world's only rock and roll nutrition show that uses music and dance to celebrate healthy habits by transforming nutrition education into this live concert. The tour in Michigan will last from November to December, and it is free for any of the winning schools.
Rock and roll nutrition show. That couldn't have been a thing before.
Pretty
now
cool,
it is. Pretty
right?
cool. Yeah.
Love that.
The New York Times is suing a reporter.
Coming up new tonight, what the New York Times says this woman has been doing that is truly fake news.
The South Lyon Hotel, part of South Lyon's history for so long.
It's been here so long that it's just one of those places that everybody meets.
Which is why the community is so happy that it's back after a rebuild of a year and a half. We'll show you all the new modern amenities.
The Jet. New at 6.
Will they survive the holidays? New at 6, 5 big-name retail brands that are in big trouble and may not be around for much longer.
Also, we'll meet the newest members of the Detroit Police Department. Yeah, there they are. The valuable work these new recruits will be doing coming up at 6. Kim.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a great Friday. I just want to let you know about some construction happening tonight and this weekend that you need to look out for. Now, I want to start with a freeway closure. North and southbound Southfield Freeway will be closing down between I-96 and 8 Mile. This starts tonight at 9 p.m. and it's not going to reopen until 5 a.m. on Monday morning. So in the meantime, to get around this one, you can use Greenfield or Evergreen instead. Also, keep this in mind over on eastbound I-696 between Campbell Hilton and Cousins. Only one lane open there starting tonight at 9 p.m. This will end tomorrow at 5 a.m. And then westbound I-696 between DeQuinder and I-75. Expect 15-minute closures there between 11 o'clock tonight and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy your weekend.
All right, Kim. Well, you might remember this. On June 23rd of last year, the South Lyon Hotel was destroyed by a fire.
Yeah, on that day, people, some of them in tears, told us how much the beloved bar meant to them and, in fact, the entire community. Flash forward to today, a year and a half later, the hotel is back open for business. Jamie Edmonds there live tonight with more on a big deal for the community. Jamie?
Devin, it's absolutely a big deal. People have been waiting for this to reopen for a year and a half. Take a look around. We're just in the first floor and it is packed. I'm hearing there is an hour wait for dinner. People are really excited to come home. They say this place is like Cheers, a spot where everyone knows your name and gives you a little wave when they see you. A place with so much history.
You know, there's been a lot of things that have happened here. You know, there's been a lot of probably girlfriend, boyfriends, marriage proposals, anniversaries in all the years, and it's been here so long that it's just one of those places that everybody meets.
Which is why it was so hard for the people of South Lyon to watch the famous South Lyon Hotel go up in flames back in June of 2016.
It's a big chunk of your life when you're here and you know this many people and they're like family and you see them every day. So yeah, it was hard to break away from that.
The owners vowed to rebuild after some contemplation on where to begin.
Originally, we were debating upon whether or not we could salvage any of the wreckage. All in all, it just made more sense structurally and financially just to knock it down and start over.
So they started anew, sticking with the original design for the two-story building, but also modernizing it for the future. They now have a bigger bar, more room, and more amenities. And so far, business is booming.
We're full all day yesterday, all night last night, and lunch was crazy today. I would venture to guess maybe a couple thousand, almost, give or take.
And as you can see back here live, they're really busy for dinner as well, and for those who are just getting a beer or two. Here's another note here. Not only are the people all coming back, the people that worked here before it burned down, you know, whatever they did for a year and a half, they are all back, about 15 employees back. And since it's bigger, they had to hire a few more people. Back to you.
Well, it looks like they might put you to work. It's packed there tonight. But I'm wondering, you know, it all looks great and it's new, but I suppose some would like some of the history of the old place sort of incorporated. Were they able to do that?
Well, they weren't able to salvage any of the building. The best they could do is they put pictures along the walls. They kept some of the marquees, some of the signs. So that's where you have your history, and they're hoping that people enjoy these modern amenities.
Let's hope so. All right, get to work there as long as you're behind the bar. All right, Jamie, we'll talk to you later on.
Yeah, here I go.